Yeah, we are here. Woo! Woo! That's my celebration. Wait,
Hi,
I
everybody.
forgot. I totally forgot I had the thing for that. That was the whole reason that I started this whole thing was well, maybe let's just do the cheering. The applause. The other one, I didn't like that one. I just heard hoot and I thought it was going to be more hooty, but it was not what I was expecting. Thank you. That's enough. That's enough. Music gives me just cyberpunk vibes. That's because I believe that song was from Borderlands 3, as I recall. And we have sound, and we have audio, and all of those things. You know what I forgot? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I am Aaron. You can always call me Aaron, and we have over here our lovely Iskra Danik.
You know it.
You know it. We are
Casual tonight.
keeping it super cash. Let's do some slightly more up. This is like really cool and chill, but I guess it's fine. I don't know. So we do something more up tempo ish, or not really. I don't know.
You're making me laugh.
The cutest of dumplings. Who would dump them? Not me. This is true. Who could dump dumplings? Dumplings are delicious, and everybody loves them.
Dumplings are delicious.
Dumplings are the most delicious. Confirmed.
And hopefully, our content will also be
delicious. Oh, yeah. Did you see what I titled it? I don't know if you saw what I titled it. Lord Dumplings, the full course.
Yes. We'll try to be comprehensive.
Because, it's not like we don't have oodles and oodles of things with which to go on.
Not quite as bad as the Elder Scrolls or Destiny, but there is quite a bit.
That is true, because you're both appetizing and meals. We are whole snacks. That is what we are. Lord Dumplings, all you can eat. Listen. I'm going to switch this over. There you go. Boop. Look at that. Quick transition. Now we have chat and you can see yourselves, because we want to record this for posterity, for our posteriors. In case anybody goes back and watches this on the YouTubes. When they watch this on the YouTubes, they'll need to know that we are not just talking to ourselves, because they won't see chat on there. They'll see it on Twitch for a little bit, but they won't see it on the YouTube. So boom, there you are. We're putting you in there. You are now part of the show. Congratulations. Hi, YouTube. Hi. All right. Let's get such interactive. Much oogle. Your cover is blown. Yeah, no. Now we all know. Trash. I can't call you trash, though. It just feels so wrong. I know that's what you said that you want to be called, but hello, post-apocalyptic near future. Wow, Graham, we are we are getting deep. I don't have enough. I don't have enough water for that. That's my pronoun is trash. Okay, well, sure, why not? So we have a lot to cover and to catch you up on, because unlike some people, we did not jump on the streaming bandwagon early. No siree. In fact, this month we'll make our 3-year anniversary at some point, undisclosed in this month, because none of us wrote it down, because we didn't think we would be doing this for that long, nor did we think we would have to remember, one specific Tuesday from 700 years ago. But here we are.
Oh, but that some players will always.
This is true. I should ask, I tried to ask some of them, and we had conflicting dates. The closest, and I felt like I was doing archaeology when I was trying to figure this out. The closest was I went back to my Amazon order history and looked up when I had ordered the beginner's guide and dice, because I knew that shortly thereafter was when we played for the first time. So I had ordered them at the beginning of October. And I know I had to read through the whole thing before I played, so I think it was like 2 weeks after I got it that we actually started playing. So mid-October somewhere. We should just pick a day. We'll just say October 15th is going to be. We'll just put it in the middle-ish. That's not how any of that works. Well, you know, I don't have anything to say to that.
Now, those who are not in the know, I joined later on. So they were playing for a bit before
This is true.
I started.
So this is before you started
Although
with
I
us.
have been playing personally for a while
You have.
for this game. Yeah.
This
adventure that happened before
this
Iskra.
particular storyline that we will be diving into is going to be the pre-Iskra days. This was whenever we were baby D&D players, because we all, I think except for Panda was the only one that knew how to play a role-playing game, like specifically.
Yeah, so set it up. Who'd you start out with?
So
how many were you? And who were they as characters?
So we'll just say that some of them I do not recall what they played as because they all. Here's the thing. Here, let me just break it down for you. I thought it was going to be really easy. Here's the thing. I thought it was going to be super easy because I had never played before. So clearly, how hard could it be? And people did it all the time. So I liked writing and I liked keeping notes, and I thought I could keep track of these things. So when I spoke to a couple of my friends about learning to play, and they were all down for it, they spoke to some other people. And so suddenly I had like 10 or 11 people that were wanting to play.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So I was like, you know, the obvious choice is you just play 2 campaigns back to back, one on Monday, one on Tuesdays, and that solves all your. How hard could it be?
DM who's never DM'd
That's
ever
never
before or played.
Never DM before, never DM, never DM'd, never played. I figured my logic was if we start at the same time, that should keep us around the same pacing-ish. So my preparation can be twofold for both of them and kind of overlap and just have different characters and take notes as to which characters did what. But so we had 2 session 1s. We didn't do session 0s because no, we kind of did, but not really. So we had 2 session 1s, one Monday, one Tuesday. They were 2 friends, and then they told 2 friends. You know, it kind of was. So we had Tempest, Marcus.
It was the mid-level marketing scheme of D&D.
It was. We had one player that played in both because he had friends in both of them. So Tempest actually existed in 2 places at once. Marcus was on one. I want to say Adam and Elliot, who's Galil and Aloquin, were on this other one. We also had my friend Obsidian, my friend David, not Panda, because then we had David on this side, and Boracor, which was whose real name escapes me. Who else do we have? Yeah, I think it was like 4. There had to have been like 5 on one and 4 on the other one because one of them wound up not showing up. So we did one session, and then the next day I did another session, and it was fun. We had a good time. Didn't know what was going on. Galil tried to run up a tree. It'll always forever haunt him. One of his first things was during the Goblin raid of the attack of the beginning of Lost Mines of Fendover. He ran up a tree, or tried to run up a tree, and rolled a 1. So that was our first big critical fail of that team.
I love it.
So, of course, Tempest, a.k.a. Sean, never let him live it down after that, and occasionally it is still brought up to this day. On the other team, we had my friend Obsidian, who played a wild magic sorcerer, a half-orc wild magic sorcerer, and he also rolled a 1 on his first attempt at a firebolt, which caused a fog cloud to appear as we rolled on the wild magic table. So no one could see anything. We had one of my friends, Oscar. His character, I do not remember what it was. His first thing once the ambush began was he got off the cart because he was like the riding shotgun on the wagon that everybody was on, and he hid under the wagon, and that was his action. That's what he wanted to do, was just hide under the wagon. And I was like, you can do more than that if you want. Like, you have all of these things. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna hide under there and see what happens. I'm like, okay. Needless to say, I think he did not come back the next week after that. I mean, we were all learning, and everybody there too was learning, so it was kind of unfair for new players, I guess. Basically, Floating Hand Studios version of Wolverine, where he's like 15 different teams simultaneously. Probably. This is exactly it. So, it was an interesting first time. But we were all doing Lost Mines of Phandelver. So those of you who have played that before, you know how that storyline goes. It's a very interesting story about a town that sits at the edge of a lost mine that was the pinnacle of human and dwarven society for a time, because they had a forge that could make magic items. And the town is currently like run by a group of bandits named the Red Brand Bandits. I remember having the hardest time.
The Russell Brand Bandits.
Russell Brand Bandits. Every single one of them was weirdly a Russell Brand clone. That was a thing. So they were holding the town hostage while they were trying to find this mine, and the players had to free the town and then complete a bunch of side quests for the villagers to help them, do whatever. And so that's what we did. So basically, my first bulletin here is: individuals from all walks of life are brought together, and all strangely with a similar story ties, the Red Brand Bandits. We didn't really plan everybody's backstories, but incidentally, all of their backstories had bandits involved. So we branded them all part of the Red Brand Bandits. God damn it. The Red Bandits, okay? We're just going to call them the Red Bandits. Forget it. Red Brand Bandit. I attack with my +2 great sword, Russell Brandits. That's an absurd paradigm, and I refuse to subscribe to it. Exactly. So, interestingly enough, like, we had Borokor, who was a dwarf that was like the size of a pixie. For whatever reason, he was under the impression that dwarves were smaller than like 3 feet.
This is fantastic.
So he was a dwarf. A dwarven dwarf. A dwarf. Some one of those. A small dwarf. Maybe he should have been a gnome, is what we later discovered. Because when we asked him, he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm like only 3 feet tall." And I'm like, "How tall do you think dwarves are?" He's like, "Aren't they like they're like little, right?" And I'm like, This was probably 50 sessions in when we finally established this, and we were like, "Wait, we've been playing for a while. Yeah, how tall do you think you are?" He's like, "Because he was saying
a spot for height on the character sheet."
There's true, and that's why he put there 3 foot something, and none of us really paid any attention to it because we just figured he was a dwarf. But he was. So he was our cleric of Lathander. But he was that cleric that doesn't do the whole lot of the healing. So, whatever.
Oh, and it's good that you're talking about Borokor, because there was
We just mentioned him.
Yes.
So
Recently in the last episode.
right. So long story short, Borkor was cleric of Lathander, who's the god of the dawn, of the sunrise, of the sun, of light and goodness and healing and all that is good in the world. Borkor loved bones and all things dead. Anytime anything died, he wanted to collect the bones. Little did we know that this was because later on down the line, he intended to be able to raise his own army of skeletons and wanted to do the whole necromancy thing. I know, Graham, I know. So he wanted to be a necromancer, and that was like when that finally started coming to around, because he was. And what was funny is the dice worked that way. Like his healing and all that stuff was never really great. But when he would do inflict wounds or any of the other necromantic spells, like he would roll really, really well.
I love when like rolls help to make rolls. You know what I mean? Like
that was
rolls
just
with an E versus rolls with an L.
like, oh yeah. I don't know
emergent properties from your characters.
Like the dice,
the dice continue to fall.
The dice tell the story. That is just how, that's just how it goes. All that being said, I finally have him, because he never prayed to his god, never talked to his god at all. It was just kind of like, and his backstory was really weird because he was like the apprentice of a cleric, but then the cleric told him he could do whatever he wanted or serve whoever he wanted. So we never really decided why he chose Lathander. It just was Lathander at first. And then after,
kid, you do you.
Basically,
I got places to be.
And so basically then at one point I was just like, all right, we're going to have a come to Lathander moment. And we had a sit down where he had a dream, and Lathander came and talked to him and was like, listen, you've been doing a lot of like dark stuff, because like clerics of Lathander are lore based, opposed to necromancy. Like, yes. That is like the further, like raising the dead was not like for their own purposes, not resurrection, just reanimating dead is not their thing. So I was like, all right, this kind of I tried to let this fly, but this goes against what is here. So let's just see what he says. And he was just like, that's why we had a conversation where he was, and it's probably come up a couple of times before, where he straight up was just like, being like a servant of the light is just so hard. I kind of just, I like my dead things. And like Kindred's jaw probably was like the only person who's like hit the table, because he was just like, you are having a talk with your god, a deity that has given you power and is like actually there in front of you, and you're just like, dude, bro, I can't follow your rules because they're like hard. So peace. And he was just like, I'll find somebody else. And so Lathander was just like, all right, I guess, whatever, bro, just go and do whatever you want to do. And he for a little bit, Borkor didn't have his magic because
yeah,
Lathander was just like, I'm going to hang up the phone now, turn off this source. So then shortly thereafter, because of his necromantic actions, he caught the eye of Jurgle, the scribe of the dead, because he was like, because I gave him the option. I was like, hey, these are like the dead gods that kind of, could someone who might like the bones thing. And so he went, yeah, you do you, boo boo. You just see how that works out for you. And he went with Jurgle, the scribe of the dead, basically someone who writes down all the names of the people who died, how they died, and where they are going to go. You are the secretary of the afterlife. All right, we got you here for murder. All right, you're going over there, section B. Thank you very much. Oh, you were a good one. You're going over here. Like, that's just what the Jurgles do. So that kind of became his thing. And yeah, he once we started playing online, he was already kind of like he was kind of one of those players that was in and out of paying attention. Like he wasn't always mentally present. So it was just kind of like after a while, and then once we started switching to online, he was just like, I think I'm going to take a break. But I kind of, it was one of those like, I saw it coming. So we just played that he joined Jurgil's forces of the dead scribes, and they are, helping out with the war effort wherever they can. Death Note, yeah, Death Note of D&D, basically, kind of. It was very much like that. If someone died of strange causes, they were normally like, this situation's abnormal. So that was one of our players that no longer plays with us. But I digress because now I'm just like rambling about all these other people. But we had a couple of these players, and so we did the whole Fandelver mini campaign. And interestingly enough, all their backstories were tied to this red brand bandits. They were collecting people. They would either have for Galil, they had taken some of his tribe, and his he had gone to like go and like free them with his former mentor, and so that was like his tie to the red brand tribe or the bandits.
Is our ASMR ranger,
played by Mr. Adam. But yeah, you'll see him with his pet Oreo.
I don't know if I knew that his tribe had been captured.
It wasn't like the
whole.
it wasn't the whole tribe. It was just like some of them had been taken by bandits. That was like part of it, just his backstory. And you wouldn't probably have known because it wasn't like a super relevant. It hasn't been super relevant anymore, for reasons that hopefully we'll get into. But they had taken some people. Borokor's village had been raided. For people who were looking for magic users. Pigug's village had been raided. His sister was taken by also this red bandit tribe. But
Pigug was our half-orc.
Correct. You would have seen him in the Rescuers Into the Abyss episodes.
Excellent mini-series.
Excellent mini-series.
Watch it.
Yes.
Pigug is a delight.
Pigug is amazing. He was so much fun to play with. His sister was taken, and mind you, none of them had said specifically, "This is who I want to have invaded." They just said, "Oh, my village was attacked by bandits," and then I was like going over all of this stuff. I was like, "Huh." There's a lot of
you like got drawing the connections.
Yes, there's all these
like,
connections bandits. Kindred had a interesting, who's our high elf wizard, who started off as our high elf wizard. He had his backstory was kind of weird because he was having problems remembering clearly his past, and so that's why he would write everything down in his journal, was because his long-term memory didn't function, basically. And for being an elf of nearly 300 years, that's pretty bad whenever you can't remember the last 300 years. So there was a lot of open mystery there with like what was going on with him. Tempest, his family had been murdered. They had all died when their house that they lived. He was a noble born, and their house blew up one day when him and his brother had gone to see a play, and he came back to
the gas on or
something along those lines, that kind of thing, where like him and his older brother went to go see a play. They came back and found that their house had been destroyed, and his brother was implicated in being the prime suspect in having murdered his family because they were part of a big company. Gang. They were part of a big merchant company up in the north in Luskin. They were like take goods across the northern sections, basically. So big merchant company. So to put him in they put him in hiding, basically in a monastery of shadow monks, and the monks, taught him their ways and all this stuff, only for later to have found out that those monks were the ones who had plotted to get the families knocked off, had planted the evidence against his brother, and was using Tempest as a placeholder, hoping that he would be loyal to them and then take over the family business. But they were
it's classic.
They were also interested in it for other reasons that we'll tie in a little bit. I think Aliquin was the only one that didn't have ties specifically to those things. We wound up making ties later, but at the onset, he was the only one that didn't have bandit related problems. I'm trying to think of who else was amongst us, but I don't think that was kind of it. So, and it's all gonna come together, I promise. Derpy Goldfish Brain Elf would be fun. The one consistent takeaway I'm getting from all this, their backstory was kind of weird. Their backstory was really weird. A lot of them are heavily anime influenced, so a lot of the hardcore protagonist tragedies that you'll see in an anime were kind of carried over into a lot of these things. And so there was that. So going back to Phandelver, they freed the town from the bandits, right? And in doing so, they met a NPC that's part of the campaign, but then I expounded on a little bit, and it was this boy who went by the name of Carp, and he was probably 7 or 8. He was little, and what was interesting was he definitely was human, but his mom was a halfling, so it was already apparent that there was a little bit of adopted child thing going on here. And then he took an instant liking to Galil. And for whatever reason, and I will be completely 100% honest, the evolution of Carp as an important NPC happened along the way. Because at first it was just kind of an interesting character. He was really powerful with magic, but didn't know how to control it. So as a child who was able to make things grow or make things happen or mold the earth, it was just really strange for this little kid. And his mom was did the whole X-Men thing of just don't do this in public, please. Right. Whatever you do, keep this under wraps, because there are people. It was already common knowledge that there were bandits that were out there looking to take magic people away. And this is a theme that might sound familiar to you.
Yeah.
So there was already why are all these magic people of magic capabilities disappearing, kind of thing. So they were oh, well, let's keep them hidden. But then Kindred and Tempest took him under their wing, which was not what I was expecting, because they are the two least kid-friendly people in real life. They're just ew, kids, what? But all of a sudden, this was their baby. And they were oh, well, we're going to protect you, and we're going to teach you how to defend yourself and how to use magic appropriately. And so they kind of started to raise him. And I was all right, that's kind of cool, an NPC pet. You just kind of keep him and see where it goes.
It's a child.
It's a child. I know. I was a baby DM. I thought it would be fine. And then I was oh, this would be kind of cool to see how this plays out. Well, lo and behold, after completing the Phandalin campaign, you defeat the evil wizard that is masterminding these bandits. They find out that the wizard is actually working for the red wizards, the Thayans. He was contracted out to try and find this magic this magic forge. And then, upon returning to the town, they find that the town has been burned. And there apparently had been some red wizards that had come to this town because they had found out, or had been given instruction, that someone high up in the divination circle of the red wizards had received a prophecy. And the prophecy is what started off our campaign. And I had the file still saved on my computer, but I don't. So I just have the physical copy. So I'll show you what I did. When the party walked into town, they found a post, and nailed to the post was this paper. It's
Excellent.
It's written in Draconic and has this weird like magic circle thingy, and then more Arcanum whatever was written on the side. And so I passed this out to the players, and they were like,
Yay, props.
what are we supposed to do with this? And I was like, okay, who speaks Draconic? And then Kindred was, of course, like, me! And so I handed him this one, which has the translation of it. And the prophecy that the Red Wizards had received was the city by the forge. The small will gain strength. He shall have a family of angels divine. I actually think if you look in our about section on Twitch, if you look in one of those little squares, you will see this prophecy. I have it written out there. And it talks about he will find a family of angels divine, and the herald of heaven comes forth from the heart of a child, and that he will stop death and the dragon, though at great cost to himself. The rising sun and the moon will themselves fight for him, a child of night and day. And then it says, right there. Wait, where is it? Right there. Knights, though you know with a K, knights, will rally, and only by fate's hand will they reach the finale. So that was the prophecy that started this campaign. And it became apparent this city by the forge was Phandalin, because it had been once a bigger city that was by this magic forge. And so the Red Wizards knew apparently this was the one thing that could stop what they had planned, was a child that was born in this town.
You described it once. They're hunting for these magical children.
Mm-hmm.
As like I think it was on an older lore Dumplings as like an evil version of how the Dalai Lama is chosen, how they like walk around the mountains trying to identify who the Dalai Lama kid is.
Yep. Yeah. So they were like, oh, and they had taken Carp with them on this adventure. That's why he wasn't in the town whenever the Red Wizards arrived. So they were like, well, hell. That's when it was
Right.
that's when it was found out through visions that Carp's initial home, or wherever the city he was found near, had also been destroyed. And his mother was not real. She was kind of like she worked for a saloon. She was like
Saloon,
she was
goddess
Magic,
of
the
the
goddess
moon.
Saloon, the goddess of the moon, had created like her to watch over the child until a guardian could be found. Galil was said guardian, and the rest of the group adopted him. So that started off this campaign of like, all right, so the whole story was they had to find these angels. There was more to this prophecy. The Red Wizard lady that was there and had burned the town down was a little on the crazy side, and she had left like some journal entries that they had found. And she was like saying that she had written all these things but didn't know what they said and couldn't understand what they meant, and to the party they could understand it. They was like, they gave angelic names of these 12 individuals, and that's who they needed to find in order to help Carp defeat Death and the Dragon. Because
Angels.
Carp's angels. Pretty guardian Sailor Galil. Exactly. Thayans are run by King Herod. Confirmed. Basically. So that was Death, because Saztam is like the biggest lich. He's the biggest lich. He is he's such a lich. Um, and so the dragon was Tiamat. The cult of the dragon and the red wizards are allies in this thing. But we didn't really know how crazy things would get yet. So they were like, all right, let's just keep things on the down low and we'll go to Neverwinter and see what we can find out. So as they were leaving, Phandalin was where we met Lady Farlight. And currently Lady Farlight is in the city of Atet. She is this like, here, I can show you. I have actually a picture of her. Let's go to media. Yeah, switch this up a little bit. And I'll take chat down and replace it with Lady Farlight. So this was an image that I found online who I wanted to represent as Lady Farlight. She was this divinely beautiful woman that did not speak to anybody. She's kind of she also has really powerful divination ability. She could predict where catastrophes were to happen. And so she had a group of followers that would go and render aid whenever tragedy would strike somewhere. A village burned down. They arrived like right as the village burned down. They couldn't do anything to stop it because they could only travel by foot at the time. But they would go in and help and fix things up. They were like FEMA, I guess.
Yay.
I suppose. Magic FEMA. So she would come in. She had her attendant, Elaine, who would speak for her. So basically, it was discovered that Farlight was like a telepath, and she would telepathically speak to Elaine, and Elaine was her spokesperson because Lady Farlight is mute. The gift of prophecy, just comes with a price. So Elaine was her not translator. I was saying her mouth, but her spokesperson. Elaine was her spokesperson. And then she had some others that traveled with her. There was Attendant Brazel. He could grow trees. He was kind of like a druid, but he could grow plants. Like that was his shtick. Was he could grow trees really, really fast. And so he was able to produce lumber to rebuild things. And was a great interpreter. There you go. Thank you, Cheese Ray. Kind of fine for his duty. I would be lying if I said that maybe a couple of the party members tried to flirt their way with Brazel. They
It
Kindred
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think it was Kindred and I think Sonder both were like, hey, so he works with wood, huh? And I was just like, oh no, we're not, we're moving on. We had Mabina. She was the only one that didn't really have magic, but she was a really great I guess kind of alchemist. She worked with potions and healing properties and had salves and stuff. This is the one who Kindred learned how to make potions and poultices and things from.
I don't think I realized how many of these people were part of Lady Farlight's crew before the party met her.
So all of these
cool
were
news
part
for
of
me.
all these were part of Lady Farlight's crew, and then we had Enid. She was also very quiet, very shy, but she was like a seamstress, a magical seamstress. She could use hyper versions of mending to create outfits, blankets, and whatever. She was like a fabric. If there was like, how they have like water benders, she was a fabric bender. She could just like, she would have like
cool.
rolls and rolls of fabric on her like horse and with a trailer, and she would be able to just kind of like make garments using magic. I had read somewhere
of Athena's metalworking skills, a character way, way, way later.
Exactly. So what you're saying, he gave everyone wood. He did. Everywhere he went, he just had wood grow magically, and he used that for his carpentry. Because I'm sure that's what you're talking about, Graham. Anyway. Anyway, I digress. I want to show you this because I don't think I've actually posted. I don't think I posted anywhere. Our own Ari from Knights of Silver Moon Discord, she drew this as a representation of little carp. There was a particular image that I had used at the time, and then she wanted to draw something that was similar. So she drew us this little image of carp, and I love it.
Yay.
It is one of my flirts. And were they barking up the wrong tree? You know, I never gave them that. I never gave him the answer to that. So he would just kind of like ha 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 and then walk off. He never answered whether he was interested or not, which is always great. Keep him guessing. So where's chat? There it is. They met this group. They had also known that the boy was going to be special, and they were like, we are going to devote ourselves to this boy. And everybody was like, he's like 7. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, trust us. We're gonna stay in Phandalin and help them rebuild, but you'll be hearing from us, basically. So the party went to Neverwinter. There a lot of stuff went down because now I was off the rails. I no longer had the I no longer had the Phandalin campaign to guide me. I just kept throwing stuff at them. So like there were mysteries upon mysteries in Neverwinter. Some of them we never really got into very much. They found the first of the 12 angels there. Oh my god, what else happened? Kindred died during they had like found some thieves, went after them, found out the thieves were were-rats that inhabited the sewers of Neverwinter, found out said were-rats were then murdered in their own hideaway by some mysterious cult people. They killed the cult people, took one of them prisoner, didn't realize that he was a warlock to a particular powerful entity, and left his body in their in room, because that's what they do. As you are now, I'm sure, have become acquainted with Kindred's need for slitting throats and blood, need for bloodshed. They just left his body in the living room because they were like, we'll deal with this in the morning, because it was late at night. In the middle of the night, Tempest got up, woken because of a dream. And when he went out into the room, found that this body had reanimated itself and left. Oh no, I can't believe you're making these puns. Leave me alone. Just branch out a little. Oh man, you were. Listen. I'm sure they'll grow on you. Wow.
Elby's really going out on a limb with some of these.
Oh no, she's part of it. She's been infected. They're all doing it.
In the tree, part of the tree.
Oh, I see what you did there. Carp's power started to expand. He started being able to dream walk, which was he didn't know how to do it. He was just popping into people's dreams, which was kind of weird. But it gave us a little insight into some of the characters. We got to see some of Tempest's background, and some of his backstory was because he was reliving some of these moments with his family. We got to see some of Saunders' background. It was the first time we had seen about his tie to the Order of the Platinum Dragon, and how his monastery had been destroyed by the Cult of the Dragon. That was a wild good time to see how that played out. And you know how I am with music. I find just the right song to like stick a knife in your heart.
Oh, absolutely.
So I found just the right song, and as we were like, I had all the sound effects going because it was a coastal. It was a monastery that was on the island, so it was like this whole coastal ambience, and he was like seeing his monastery as it had been. And he like Sonder is the biggest cinnamon roll, and I could see his eyes were already glistening and turning red, and I was like, oh
Oh,
man.
yay.
It was one of my first tastes of true power. I didn't know that I could have this kind of effect on my players before, of telling a story to where it would emotionally impact them. And here I was, and I was like, ooh, this is good. This is real good. So I may have got my first taste for blood that day. And so Carp started getting more powerful, but he barged in on Tempest's dream, and Tempest, being an older monk, like blasted him out. In the process, Carp kind of just started jumping around dreams across Neverwinter and found himself locked into a particularly bad place. So Carp went into a coma for a while, and everybody went into a panic because our boy is not waking up. He was alive. He wasn't feverish. He just wasn't waking up. So that was like, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days of like trying to go to different people, trying to see if they could figure out a way to wake him up. They finally found a seer that was in the bad side of town, and she was just like, yeah, he's locked away in a very terrible mind. It's a very old and powerful mind. And so she was like, I can help you, 2 of you go and break him out, but it might be dangerous. And in the process, they found out that there was apparently a dragon that was close by that was remaining hidden in human form here in the city, and with such a powerful mind, it was like the sink, it was like the that kind of like caused Carp to like just automatically gravitate to this powerful.
Like the ground is there's a dip there.
And so he just like
a little
found,
marble that was Carp rolled right into it.
Rolled right in and couldn't get out. So at the same time, they were being courted, the whole party, by this one bard that kept following them around everywhere. Like they'd go to a new pub or a new bar, and there she would be playing music and like flirting, and just she was like, there's something interesting about you guys, and everybody's kind of suspicious. Well, she was the dragon. So she was trying to figure out, there was a familiarity to them that she had with Carp, because Carp was locked in her mind prison. So she was like, all right, so if I follow these guys around enough, I'll see who this boy is that is capable of jumping into people's minds. I started to panic because I had, 7 or 8 arcs going on in Neverwinter, and it was like, all right, here comes the big arc. And that is when yay, Dreamy! Wow, 6 months already? Holy moly.
Yeah, it's been a long time already. Holy
jeez, 6 months. That's a minute and a half. That's quite a few minutes, actually. What was I gonna say? Oh, so that's when the Red Wizards enacted their plan. And in one night, they had already set up across all of the Lord's Alliance.
I was waiting for this.
Yeah, so all of the Sword Coast is under a group called the Lord's Alliance. And the Thayans had already set up either people close to the Lords or something along those lines. We had already had used doppelgangers in Phandalin, and there's a couple that had been found in Neverwinter. So some of the lords had already been replaced, or the people that they trusted had been replaced, and some of these doppelgangers were working for the Red Wizards. So in one night, they took out all of the leadership of the Swords Coast. I think that's like, I want to say that's like 7 cities. Super Thayans. Were there any Super Thayans? There are some. There are some Super Thayans, and they are super bad. And wait, what's the other word that we were?
There
There was another word. Is it super? Oh, Mythal. I was thinking of Mythal. I was like, there's another word in this campaign that has given me hell. It's Mythals, but that's a story for another time.
Yes, anyway, there's a coup that's
So there was
occurring.
a coup that occurred. Carp was freed. Lady Farlight returned to Neverwinter, and she was like, things are about to go down. Like, we need to go. They are looking for this child, and they have come to Neverwinter already, and the walls were surrounded. And at that time, we didn't know that airships were a thing. So the Thayans, as you remember from Silvery Moon, know how to make giant, basically teleportation circles. They can move massive amounts of people and objects in a short amount of time. In Neverwinter, there is a chasm that spreads through a good portion of the city, and it is covered by a shield, a magical shield that prevents things from the Underdark to come up into the city because it's a very deep chasm. They converted the shield basically and turned it into its own teleportation circle. So it was just like this massively long canyon that now is connected to another place. And I remember that night when we had everybody doing, they were actually there by the chasm because that's where the seer was. They had a little base there, or had established a little base there, and they watched as this like magical shield suddenly became a mirror into another place, a different sky, and these airships just rose from the ground and started blasting Neverwinter with magic. And they were like, there's airships.
You know, although they are our enemy, that is an incredibly impressive feat. Because like the preparation that it must have taken to convert that chasm
right
into a like a teleportation canyon.
There had been a couple of key mages here in the city that the party had met that were in on the plot, and they had been trying to convince Lord Neverember to allow them to close the chasm, use their magic. So they were like, yeah, go for it. Like, if you can fix this, awesome. So there were a lot of mages that were working on the chasm for for their own purposes. And so they, in broad daylight, under the very eyes of those that thought they were doing it, like, oh yeah, we're doing magic stuff. Pay no mind. So, they had it was a great setup.
It's indistinct magical construction. You don't need to worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's just constructions. So in one night, all of these cities just kind of like fell. It may have some had more resistance than others, but once the leadership is toppled and the rest of the government's trying to like fight back, it's a lot harder.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the Lord's Alliance was strong because you had these smaller nations on the Sword Coast all
together,
relatively united.
That was
no,
go ahead.
Well, yeah, and so having this singular attack on one night at all these places.
So we had, if you look at, there's no like happy medium in this map thing. Let me show you. We'll do there we go. So we have the Faerun map up here.
I'll take a look.
So we started out in Phandalin. Unfortunately, this map doesn't get more detailed the more you scroll in, but basically Phandalin's like here. We moved to Neverwinter. The Lord's Alliance was like Neverwinter, Luskan, Waterdeep, Daggerford. I think Baldur's Gate was as far south. Yartar is part of it. Long Saddle is part of it. Silvery Moon's part of it. I want to say that there was some more that were over in this area that were also part of it. But basically, if you look at the Sword Coast, this is like the biggest. They covered basically all of this. And they were so powerful that they knew if anybody was going to put up a stalwart defense, would be the Lord's Alliance. Because all of these other little places have their own countries, but they're all independent. they're not really unified in any way. Sometimes they even fight with each other. So those are easier to sweep through is when everyone's standing by themselves. But the Lord's
Right, or
Alliance
you
was
have
unified.
some examples like we've encountered recently near the Sea of Fallen Stars, where the nearby nations have even decided it would be better for them to just align with they anyway.
Correct. So all of this section now was under, Thayan control for the most part, at least all the capital cities. So after that, it was just really easy to kind of steamroll through the other smaller towns. So now the party was on the run. They didn't know how much detail the Empire knew about the boy. Lady Farlight was like, they know that they're searching for one. They have seen you with him before. So let's split our group. Like, this is where they had met. The seer ran an orphanage. Like, there's always so many like threads to all these stories. The seer ran an orphanage. One of the children in this orphanage was Criterion, a young half-orc boy that you might know. So Criterion was like about the same age, about the same height as Carp. So what they did was Lady Farlight and her entourage took Carp because they were like, we'll teach him more about how to use his magic. We can keep him safe with her ability to kind of see the future a little bit. They'll be a little safer that way. And our party took Criterion as a decoy. And he was like 100% decoy boy. He was 100% on it, and was just like, yeah, sure. This kid's pretty cool. Seems pretty cool. I'll do this if it means getting out of the city too. So he was like all about it. So that night when they decided that was the night that the Empire struck. So in the midst of fire and war, the parties went in separate directions. Lady Farlight took her entourage on horseback and went one way out of the city. Our party took horses and went the other way out of the city. And it was like wild and chaos. I remember Panda was like, I can't believe you just burned a whole city to the ground. I was like, well, it's not completely, hey, I'm cooping here. Nice. They left. That was about when Tempest had to take his leave from the party. So he had made friends with an NPC that was like an old school companion, and he had found out I keep forgetting there are so many levels to this thing. One of the things we did in Neverwinter was they attended a ball, because that's what you do in big cities. You attended a ball, and some of the party was abducted, and in the search for them, they found that there were people that had been polymorphed into animals that were being held by snake-like individuals at the bottom of this manor. And incidentally, there was a Thayan delegation that was already there in Neverwinter at the time. And the whole party was...
Familiar playbook.
The whole party was a whole, like, Neverwinter... Lord Neverember had made this ball as like a, welcome this foreign dignitaries that are bringing us all of these things, these gifts. And so these gifts that had been locked away were these animals that had collars on them. And then they found out that some of the party members had become those animals with the collars on them. And so that was our first, brush with the Druids of the Sand, although no one knew what they were called at the time because they killed everybody. But the Druids of the Sand were there. They were being shipped by Tempest's family, old merchant family company. And
the
so
polymorphed
the
individuals.
polymorphed individuals. So that was their cover up here in the north, was that company that had been taken from his family, who was run by the guy who had killed them all, and who was the son of the monk order, like master. So it was like this whole thing
That's
of them.
great. I love it.
They had taken the family business so that they could use that enterprise already to sneak these magic people under the guise of, oh yeah, we're shipping pets. Watch where you get your pets from, because you never know, they could be polymorphed individuals. So Tempest was like, I need to figure out what's going on with this family business. So he left the party, and that was when Sean departed from our group at the time. So by that point, we had Sonder, Borkor, Panda, Pigug, Kindred, Aliquin. That was 5. Are we missing anybody? I don't think so. I think that was it. I think we just had those 5 for a little while.
So where there's Kindred's death also happens in Neverwinter, though, right?
Kindred's, yes.
And so when does this
This was amongst that.
unwilling revivification occur?
So again, this was all before Neverwinter like exploded. Remember I said I had like 8 or 9 plots that went on in Neverwinter. Yes. One of those, oh yeah, because I remember I had said about the cult guy who had been murdered.
Yes.
And then came back to seek his vengeance, or with other cult members came back to seek their vengeance at the House of 1,000 Faces. It was like this very popular inn that is in Neverwinter. Half the party had left that morning to get pastries, as people do, I guess. They went on the pastry run, and Borkor, Galil, Kindred, I think it was just them 3, stayed behind. Oh, and Tempest. They stayed behind at the inn. And lo and behold, they get attacked by these cultists. Things go really south. The party splits up even further, and Kindred winds up running out into the rain of the thunderstorm and finds himself in an alley where he is cornered and murder-faced. Hardcore murder-faced. At the time, he didn't play with us for a couple weeks, and then we were like, am I going to be able to come back? And I was like, well, our cleric doesn't know how to resurrect anybody for a couple levels, so I don't know. And then we kind of toyed with him in the afterlife. So because he had 2 souls, part of his whole being a Horcrux, which the party didn't really know at the time, and he didn't either to a certain extent. Like, it was the first kind of like hint that there was something more going on. And oh my god, there's just so many threads that spiral out from here. The mage that was the head, like the big honcho for Neverember, her name was not Callistia. Oh man, I wish some of the others were here, because I was like, what was her name again? But she was a member of the Red Wizards, but was kind of like low key about it. She had already met with the party. There was already some tension between her and Kindred. She was the one who had sent these cultists to deal with the party. They brought back Kindred's head to her. Kindred.
Dang.
Yeah. So she tried to use Speak with Dead on Kindred, which was a really weird.
You told me about that. That's
which
cool.
was a really weird thing to play, where you're like the opposite side of things, where you're just like, okay, so you as a player get asked these 3 questions. Like, you kind of have to answer, but you don't have to answer well. And so he answered them in the most perfect, ambiguous, and like non-answer kind of way he could. So she was upset with that, and was like, all right, that's fine. Be gone with you. Meanwhile, Kindred's still in limbo because of his alignment. He will end up being in like this realm of chaos. I have a feeling I would know exactly what that is too. Yep, that's basically me. Yep. Good job, Graham. Good job. It is the one with the tagging of all of the places. So, that fits.
Oh yes.
That was definitely me. What was I gonna say? She winds up reincarnating Kindred. And I gave Kindred the option. I was like, you hear the voice that is calling to you to come back to a body. Like, you can choose whether to go or not. Like, this is up to you. You can continue to wait in limbo to see if you can find another way back, or because we did like a one-on-one text thread, basically. The first of my text threads. Or you can go with this voice. And he's like, do I recognize the voice? And I was like, Deathbell. Lady Deathbell. It just popped in my head. She was one of them. Lady Deathbell was one of them. And then there was another one that she's also part of, like, yay, Galil. Galil, what was the name? Not Deathbell. What was the name of the other terribly horrible woman, that horrible woman in Neverwinter? I cannot think of her name for the life of me. And I was trying to go through my notes, but I can't remember. I know that he's got like a vendetta against Valindra. There it is. Yes. Lady Deathbell. That's almost as bad as Gog Van Dyer from Warhammer. I was a baby DM, okay? So I was coming up with the best that I could. Yes,
maybe she chose it herself.
Yeah, maybe she liked that name. God, see, here's the thing: is like I have this whole section is Neverwinter of notes, but they're not. It's all like loose leaf, so it would take me forever to go back there and try and find them all. But yes, Valindra Dark Mantle. It was because you listen. We all know that D&D NPCs by standard have the Skywalker name kind of thing, Iron Hammer and Stonehill, and it's just descriptive. Deathbell was one of them. It's her dead journal name. Lady Deathbell is the only one Galil will literally attack on sight. Okay, Deathbell is because Deathbell was the one who killed Oreo. Valindra was the mastermind. She was the one that was the Red Wizard. So Lady Deathbell was her apprentice. Valindra was the mastermind. The two of them, combined with a third person that Kindred never saw, brought him back. And when he was brought back, they were like, welcome back to life. We have questions for you. So they kind of asked him some more questions about who the child was, where he was. But by this point, Kindred had no idea because he didn't know how many days had passed since then. He's like, I have no idea where they are now. They could be anywhere. Don't use the Hideo Kojima name generator when writing, or
That's
always
fantastic.
use it. Yeah, that's fair. So they were like, you know what?
Metal Gear.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much you tell us. And the next thing Kindred knew was he woke up in an alley, much like he had died, but on the bad side of town, and was found by some of the kids of the orphanage. And so the party gets back to the orphanage, and they're like, Kindred's big reveal was like, I'm back, bitches. And they were like, what the heck? Because now he is a female hobgoblin. Because I rolled on the table what he was going to reincarnate as. I was like, well, let's see what it is. And it was a hobgoblin. And I was like, okay, this will make it interesting. And then I was like, it never specifies in the reincarnation whether you gender or anything else. It just gives you a long list of things. And I found a more elaborate reincarnation table because there was one that comes with the in the book or in part of the spell, but it only gives you like the base races that come with like the player's guide. And so this one had more of the races plus a couple of other like possibilities for it. So I was like, I went with that one because I was like, that sounds more fun. Oh, the questions that Kindred was asked while in limbo. She was passed out and woke up and said that. No, yeah. And so she was just like, I don't know, they just let me go. And everyone's like, this is hella suspicious. Like, why would they just let you? They brought you back just to let you go and be found by us? Like, that's pretty convenient. But nobody could prove anything that anything was happening. So over the course of those days after in Neverwinter, occasionally when someone would stay up and do watch while they were like resting, it wouldn't happen every night, but every now and then one of them would notice that Kindred would start talking in his sleep, but he was always talking in a language none of them understood, and he had no recollection of what he was sleep talking. And for the most part, most of them, I don't think anybody ever asked him like about it while he was awake. He wouldn't remember doing it, and he was just like, I just guess I'm sleep talking. Yeah, I remember Galil noticed it, but I don't think anybody like really came up to him about it. Elvie, you're the worst. But the best. The very best. She is always the very best. You made me roll for it in Neverwinter Manor. Oh, not Neverwinter Manor. Wasn't it you? Yeah, I didn't. I'm skipping over bits of it because there are so many bits that happen in Neverwinter. Right. But it was there was a tiefling that was like Never Ember's associate. He was like his right hand man, and I forgot. Aton is what he's called when he drops the banhammer. Aaron, you mispronounced Elvie. You are the best. I know. Oh no, she is the best. That's why she's in the credits as the best mod. Yeah. What was I gonna say? So yeah, they left Neverwinter. Wound up getting to Yartar, which, if you're looking at the map, after much running on horseback and then and such.
You should bring the map back up.
Yeah, I'm bringing. Wait, that's not the right button. Window capture. There it is. I didn't understand what he said though in his sleep because it was a different language. Yeah. Hey, Granite Suki, Frog Boy, yo, boy, what's up? So they were in Neverwinter. They went down and across, wound up getting to Tribor, and then made it over to Yartar. From Yartar, things went south rather quickly. That is where Sonder met one of the daughters of Tiamat. It was his first run-in with the group that had caused the fall of the Platinum Order. Because the Tiamat and Bahamut are like mortal enemies, right? And so the Cult of the Dragon followers of Tiamat decided to take out the Order of the Platinum Dragon, Callistia. Yeah. And it was great because at first he didn't know who she was. He just was like, he had taken it in the morning. He'd gone out to go do his morning ritual of like yoga or whatever it is that he does. He was going to go practice his forms as he does every now and then. And they were camping out in the woods, and he runs across this like half elven woman, and she's like, they have this really great connection, and they're okay, Galil. That she was like really cool. She incidentally had a southern accent. She was very much like a southern belle, and was so instantly suspicious, but also like enticing, I guess. Graham, quick, demonstrate it. Oh my god. Okay. I'm trying to think. If I were Callistia right now, and you are Iskra,
Uh-huh.
well, hello there. It's so good to finally meet you in person. You know, I, for the longest time, couldn't decide who or what I was going to be, but then knowing that I came from the southern reaches of Faerun, I decided to land myself on something that sounded a little like this. We were looking for the Aesomos. They were looking for the Aesomos. Sonder, you are the most interesting of people. And then he mentioned something about praying to his god. Iskra is Iskra? Imagine that. Whoa. From Faerun's Antebellum. Yeah. So she was just like very intrigued with him. And he mentioned praying to his god. I was waiting for the name to drop. If he had said Bahamut, things would have gone down in that clearing that day. But he did not. For the first time ever, he did not bring up Bahamut. He just mentioned that he'd been praying to his god. And like the prayer helps him like meditate and relax. And she was like, I too, frankly, my DM, I don't give a damn. Well done. Well done. She was like, I too enjoy praying to my God. She's like, perhaps we can pray together sometime. And he was like, oh yeah, we're on our way over here, because Sonder, being the cinnamon roll that he is, trusts everyone.
Yeah.
Trusted everyone. Like, oh yeah, we're going to Yartar. And she's like, oh, well, so am I. It's like, well, perhaps we could run into each other while we're there or something. And he was like, yeah, I'll look for you. She's like, you'll have to come find me though. She played very coy. They get to Yartar, find it's already under Thayan rule or Thayan occupation, but it's not like there's wanted posters, and there's not like there's the internet to like fast travel information of like,
Right.
look out for these individuals. Like they were like, oh yeah, we're traveling, and they're like, well, who do you are you loyal to the Empire? Like, yeah, they had a hobgoblin with them, and so that's where one of the first times that they played into the whole, yeah, she's one of us, we're part of the Empire, etc., etc.
There's a hobgoblin army that the Thayans have been using to fuel their imperial ambitions.
All of
So-
their basically soldiers have been for the most part hobgoblin. Aside from Red Wizard members themselves, the armies of Thay have been hobgoblin, because they are notoriously militaristic, I guess, in a lot of settings and things. They are hobgoblins, like have this whole regimented thing already, so it was just perfect fit to have them lead their armies.
Although we did recently have kind of a reveal about why just so many, and it's not
It's not just actual
hobgoblins,
right.
but yeah.
So in Yartar, they discovered that one of the old NPCs they had met in Phandalin was actually part of the Zentharim, which is like the dark side version of the Harpers. Like they are a international group of... They're like Vile, I guess, from Carmen Sandiego. They're like an
Yes.
international group of thieves, but that like also deal in ancient artifacts. So you could go to them. They have their own black market, but they also go and steal stuff for you. They also trade in secrets. They love secrets. So we dealt with them. They found out that recently, because Yartar had been taken recently, that there were still prisoners that were being held, magic users were being held in the city. And so there was our first prison break episode where they learned how to try and, break some people out. And in the process, discovered, Cassandra had gone to every inn in the city and could not find Callistia. And then during the prison break, as things went out of control and it was the warehouse that they were being hidden in burned to the ground, because that's how we work. Callistia comes up and is like with the Thayan soldiers and is just like, what's going on here? Just like suddenly was not so sweet and innocent. Oh, the warehouse. Yeah. And once that was found out, like I felt almost a little guilty because I could see Saunders'
really like
heart.
it. Oh my
Saunders'
gosh.
heart broke a little bit. He was like, "She was so cool, though. Now she's like my mortal enemy." Especially because she was wearing the armor of, the daughter of Tiamat. Like, the Cult of Dragon has the sons and daughters of Tiamat. There's one for each color, each of the chromatic colors: red, white, black, green, and blue. And there's a general for each one, a son or a daughter. And she was wearing the black armor of the daughter of Tiamat. And so it was just like, what? Not only was she working for the bad guys, but she was responsible for that. And I think there was even, Oathbreaker Paladin. I think there was even, I want to say, was it that night, Galil at the warehouse, or was it later? It was later because she had found out something about him, and then they wound up chasing the party back to the Harpers where they were staying. And as they were trying to follow them in, and this Harper agent was trying to teleport them to somewhere safe, they were gonna teleport them over to Waterdeep. She started taunting him. And Kindred, Kindred, uses this spell on occasion annoyingly, but sometimes it actually was for a good moment. He cast Deafness on Sonder, because Sonder was like using his water ability to hold the door, like put ice on the door to keep it from being broken down. And she was like taunting him, saying, "I thought I recognized, you and your thing," and was saying how she had been there at one of the temples and had taken great pleasure in tearing those. I used some rather colorful verbiage at the time that I don't remember, but I used some very, like, I wanted him to feel. And the thing was, Josh heard me say these things, but Sonder did it. And the look of like pure anger on his face, he was mad at Kindred for casting Deafness, but was also grateful because he was like, if he had actually heard any of that stuff, he would have like broken through there and dropped the spell and gone to go do it himself. His missionary, his monastery and the fall of it, like she was there for all of it. And she was like, I took great pleasure in it. It was great listening to them scream. And that's when I really played into like bitchy southern drawl. Like it just really laid it in thick. They escaped to Waterdeep. Barely. And so now they went from wait, let me bring this back up again. They went from up here to Yartar all the way down here to Waterdeep. And met some great Harpers that were there. The city was already taken over by the Empire there, so they were like, all right, we need to go back. We have we left our horses there. We need to go back to Yartar and like help our friend that's there. We don't want him to suffer the consequences because of what we did. So like they gave it a day and then went back. Yeah, you were there for like a night, and then the next day you guys went back to, I'm picturing Darth Malgus with a Southern Belle voice gleefully telling you about how he shattered the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Horses, that are now dead. You don't know, those horses could still be alive. Needless to say, this party and horses, when you guys bought the horses last time, I was like, I give it a couple months. That would not see this lasting long. So they went back to Yartar. Why did you go back? Oh, Crater wasn't there. Crater had been with them this whole time, and he wound up staying in Yartar. And they were like, this boy is on his own in this town filled with bad guys. Like, we need to go back. I was like, I knew they were going back for an ally, but I thought it was a Harper guy, but it was Crater, because Crater had been left in Yartar. And they were like, no, we have to go back for him. So they went back for him. I like to imagine they don't buy horses, they lease them. You know, it probably would be better. It's just like if you can get homing pigeons, maybe you get homing horses so that at some point if they let them go, they just return back to the stables.
Oh my goodness.
We'll do that next time. I'll have a little magical emblem that just drives them to go back to a certain place. So they go back to Yartar. They find out that there's going to be an execution that's going to be held for the Harper agent that had helped them escape. Obviously, they're going to try and step in there. There was the Harper agent and those involved was what the execution notice was. Once a dire eagle. Oh my god, go horsey, you're free now. Immediately gets plucked off the ground by a dire eagle. Yeah, Harper guy died, stayed behind, and broke the teleportation circle that we used so you could escape. So they attended the execution. The whole city was there. The whole town was there, including Crater. And then they were like, because they found there was this one boy that was sitting by a water feature, a water fountain, there in the main square, and somehow, I think it was Sonder that kind of came up to him. Didn't know if it was him, but then he was just looked. They did that look at each other what are you doing here? What are you doing here? They had come to rescue him. He had thought that the party had been captured, and he was planning to try and rescue them. So it was just oh wait, we're both free. So then who are the people that are getting executed? And there was all these people around, and I don't remember who it was. I think it was Kindred, who cast detect magic. And realized, because they had been standing behind the crowd, realized that the crowd was not real. That most of the crowd was fake. That they were all illusions. And then when he had done that, Sonder went into it. That's right, because everybody was looking forward, and then Sonder tried to walk around somebody and then accidentally touched someone, but his shoulder went through it, kind of thing.
Ooh, interesting.
And they realized this was all a trap. Yeah, this was all a trap to get the party to show themselves for this execution. The guy was actually up there, and that's where we met one of the lord that had been in charge there in oh my god, what was his name? Lord Luhorn, the Lich of Illusion.
Indeed.
And so a fight broke out. We had another player join us for a little bit. Calicia was next to Sonder. That's right. It was a whole surprise. We had, oh god, what was his name? You put it in there earlier. We had another player that joined us for a little bit. Another dwarf. He was an interesting fellow. We were having such great times with dwarves. We've had such great experiences with them. The party gets captured by the Empire. They get sent on an airship, Thanem. That's right, Thanem. They get sent on an airship to somewhere. Thanem and Fleabag. So Thanem was a fighter that had a hammer that turned into an umbrella, or an umbrella that turned into a hammer that was given to him by his husband, who was a wizard, another dwarf wizard. Together, they were the mayors of a village of gnomes. He had a squire that was a gnome that got left behind because he got arrested. Once they were in prison, he tried to use blood magic. I don't remember how. He bit his thumb really hard, and I was like, why? He's like, can I just bite my thumb really hard so I can get it to bleed? And I was like, I guess. Mind you, the party didn't know anything about him. So they're just we got arrested with this crazy dwarf who's eating his thumb. And he used it to try, he had a a Tressum, those cats with wings, and Fleabag was his cat with wings. But because he had it's the feat where it's like an acolyte feat where you can kind of get a couple of spells from a certain class. So he had that for wizard. So what we played it was he wasn't really good at casting it. So his familiar kind of looked like it had been hit by a car. It just had was just like kind of disjointed a little bit. So Fleabag, fighter barbarian, made a pact with the devil. Okay, roll for auto cannibalism, I guess. He was also raging. Oh yeah, because he was part barbarian. It was a mess. It was one of those like, I'm gonna multi-class into 3 different things because I really have this unique vision. And I was like, okay, I mean, I guess why not? So he got arrested. They were in the airship heading south. Magic initiate. That's right. Literal, actual munchkin. While they were flying south, Crater shows up again. Crater was a unique individual because he was raised to be very street smart and an urchin. So he was kind of like really good at blending in urban settings. That was like his whole deal. So he was a very sneaky rogue. Very good at lockpicking and using doors, interestingly enough. And so he frees the party. They're like, all right, we're in this airship. What do we do? They try and take over the airship. Gets us out of it. But we were collared, so no magic. Oh, yeah, that's right. They did have collars on them, so none of them could use any magic. Callistia was on the airship with them. She was taking them to go somewhere. A fight breaks out. The airship starts to crash. It crashes. Let's see. I think it was just, they were headed back to Waterdeep, but it was just basically down here. So it'd been a little bit. They had just been following along the river. And the airship crashes into the water on the coast of the river and then winds up crashing. And everybody had almost escaped. You're good at using doors, but in D&D, this isn't actually a rare skill set. Yeah. By the way, it was unlocked. What? So, one of our players summoned a bunch of giant bats so that everyone could have flying mounts to get off the airship as it was crashing. Only problem was they were still fighting Callistia in the back of the captain's cabin of this airship,
which is so cool.
Visually it was
so
wild.
Cool.
There was like webbing involved. There were a bunch of wolves. It's when I first realized that any class that can summon 6 to 10 animals at a time is a class you don't want to be playing with. I mean, you want it on your side, but talk about messing up action economy. I had all of these things perfectly balanced for my party versus the enemy, and now my party triples in size because somebody cast a spell that made them a bunch of animals.
30 to 50.
30 to 50. Wow, feral hogs. Yeah. So Crater is trying to save Pigug. Pigug is trying to save Crater, and they were the last 2 to get out of the room. The airship crashes because it was like one of those round by round thing. I was like, you're almost there, and the last minute they pulled away. They go through the ruins of the airship and find that both Pigug and Crater are badly wounded. There was a moment where there was a moment where I think something that Pigug had allowed him to be okay-ish. But Crater had a piece of lumber that was stuck through his body.
Yeah, he was impaled.
He was impaled by this really big piece of lumber, and Galil tried to heal him, but it was he was basically healing spirit. Oh, that's right, because Galil had healing spirit, which saved Pigug, but healing hands didn't save Crater because it was like a smaller amount, and this was more of a he's already mortal wound kind of thing, and so Crater wound up dying. When a half orc loses a half orc child, it gets really ugly. So Pigug got really upset, and him and a couple of other characters got to get into a fight verbally and physically. And then they finally, like, did Crater live up to his name? Yeah, he kind of went out in a crater, so I give you that, Graham, you terrible human being. Also, Galil was going to the dark side. Yeah, he was starting to lose faith in Saloon and was starting to do more dark things. And so his that was the other reason that had played into his healing ability didn't quite work as well, because his magic was like tainted. It was like looking at a cloud through moon through the clouds is the way I like to think about it. Was like it was just like those darkness to it. And so oh no. God damn it. Galil. Same as Vian's. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so yeah, Crater died. The party moved on. They weren't really sure where to go. They were just kind of traveling. They came across a group of centaurs, the Red Braid tribe. So these centaurs were kind of like a roving nomadic group that they wound up befriending and helped travel. They got to a certain forest. How does a grandchild of Saloon rebel? Did Galil become a sun worshiper? No. He just started going after Shar, which was like her evil twin sister. They wound up going to the Crypt Gardener Forest, which is just on the opposite side of the Sword Mountains. So if there's like Phandalin, there's the Sword Mountains, and then there's this other forest. And so they get to this forest, and they find this old portal that after some investigation they find out is a Fey portal. They also find that this Fey portal is guarded by two rather old-looking Warforged. They find a way to reawaken these Warforged, and that's how we got Riku and Rauku. They were two, and the introduction of the Knights of the Living Order, because they were some of the original Knights of the Living Order, which, those of you who don't know, the Knights of the Living Order are basically Jedi.
They're very Jedi.
Very Jedi influenced. Very heavily Jedi influenced.
And two of our rescuers in Rescuers are Knights of the Living Order.
That's right.
Series.
So we had their introduction. The portal that they found was a Fey portal, which they are located in random points throughout the countryside. So for a brief minute, the party went into the Feywilds, and that was an interesting experience. They come out of there, speaking to these Warforged. They are like, well...
and having freed a squirrel that was not, right?
Yes.
So, which becomes important to Pigug later.
Yep. So they... The Warforged tell them they know how to use these portals to connect to other portals that are in this realm. That's how they got here to begin with. They had been on a mission checking these portals when magic failed, part of the whole spell plague event that was part of history. So they're
so the spell plague, for those who don't know, is like a D&D lore event that occurred in this campaign setting that is Faerun and the Forgotten Realms, where magic went nuts.
Yeah, it went more than nuts. The goddess of magic was murdered, and so everything went wild after that. It stopped working. It kind of worked, didn't work. The dimensions crashed through each other, so
It caused all kinds of problems.
it caused a lot of problems. These Warforged, being magically based, ceased functioning and just never never woke up again until the party found them. The party was like, oh, we're trying to get away from Thay, trying to escape this war. They're like, well, we know a way to get back to the city where we came from. We can show you how to use this portal. Portal is used, and they find themselves now in the middle of the desert. So we go from here, somewhere in the Crypt Garden Forest, to now like out here in the Anorak Desert, like just the middle of nowhere. Oh, wait, hold on. I brought up the map for myself, but not for everybody else. Because, that's how I roll. Just for me! So, Crypt Garden Forest is here, and now they wind up, like, out here in the middle of nowhere. It was a time. And that's where we found Atet. At the time, the city of Atet was not named the city of Atet. It was just a ruined city that was like situated in a really large canyon and like tilted at this weird angle. So the party goes to this city, and that's where they meet the Reclaimer squad, the Death Squad soon. There was a group of Thayan. There was a Thayan hit squad that was there because
at this archaeological site.
Right, because this ancient city was part of the Nephiril. It was like, imagine Atlantis in this setting, but they had floating cities, and then when the spell plague happened, all the cities fell because magic stopped working, and the people there either died or moved on with their lives elsewhere. This city was also the base of the really descriptively named Sand Pirates, because the Sand Pirates. The Sand
Pirates. Because that's what we be.
Are indeed. They the original name of the city of Atet, I think, was Cumulus. It was one of the clouds. They were kind of had like cloud-like names. Cumulus. Is it Cumulus? I think that's. In any case, also we found some drow there, I believe, and had to exterminate them because they were doing something bad. Well, okay, so they weren't drow, they were Shadarkai, but yes, they were like twisted dark creatures from the shadow plane, the shadow realms, that they had found in the very center of the city that were like trying to pull the shadow plane into the material plane. And so the party got in the middle of fighting some of them, and then as things kind of looked dire, not really, because the party's always been really, really good, the Thayan hit squad kind of came in and rescued them. So now our party, the Brigade of 8, had now, that is where you got your armor and your whip. The Brigade of 8 now had to make a choice. They could either hang with the Sand Pirates or they could hang with the Hit Squad. The Hit Squad was here to kill the Sand Pirates because the Sand Pirates had been stealing stuff from the Thayans. The party was like, well, we have friends with Thayans. This could come to our advantage if we stick with them. But they wound up hanging out with the Sand Pirates and avoiding the big conflict between the two. And then kind of came back afterwards for the resolution. The Sand Pirates, for the most part, won because of their had more numbers. And the Thayan Hit Squad, there has been 4 of them. There was Neferu, Atet, Beck, and a 4th member. The 4th member is the one that died. And it turned out that with his death, he was also the one that had been kind of watching over these 3 and was kind of charming them to a certain degree to make sure that they kept doing what they were supposed to be doing. Because as a hit squad, you can imagine they were doing some really terrible things.
Right.
Atet was the most injured. She had lost one of her arms, and I want to say both of her legs. So there wasn't a whole lot of her left, and there was no healer, really, that could really help her with that. The city of Tomulus, look at you going through your notes. I knew it was something like that. Atet did not have the high ground. No, she did not. Graham, you're the worst. But basically, yeah. Doing some digging around the city, Kindred and Beck, because Beck and Neferu and Atet were like, we have done terrible things in the name of this empire. Like, we understand if you want to get rid of us, but we are done. And they're like, no, you can, Cathra.
Catra?
Catra. Yeah, what? Catra? Help us. They had an airship. They had our beloved now Captain Illy. Oh, thank you, Trash. It's a Mel. Catras. I'm Catras. Yay. Welcome. Thanks for the subscription. That was very nice of you. We had our beloved pilot. Our very own. Oh my God, where is her picture? Grandma Alina Stoker. Oh, I gotta turn chat off. Sorry, chat. Goodbye. We have our wonderful pilot here. The one who, talks like this while smoking her twig all the time. That's where we're.
Best.
Baracus is Sand Pirates. Oh, that's right. What did you call me? Oh no, don't do that. You jerk. You played me. I finally called you trash. You start crying about it. Nope. Don't like it. don't like it. You jerk. But yeah, so that's where we came. That's where the party met. Alina, she had been not commandeered, but forced to fly the airship. There are very few people who can fly these airships because they are not of Thayan make, but incidentally, they are from Neferil, the whole Atlantean city. And so the whole thing that the Sand Pirates had been doing was hitting these excavation sites where these airships were being dug up and rebuilt and stuff. Tweed? She smokes tweed, or she's a tweaker. Definitely a tweaker. She's been a lot of fun to play. She's no nonsense. You know what I would love to find is pictures of like gnome children. Like for we have Gretel and Sparrow, that her two grandkids. Like gnomes are already small and cute, so I'm just imagining what like child gnomes would be like. And I mean, gnomes are also like ridiculously long lived, so they could be children but still be like 100 or whatever. But Grandma Illy, she talks like that, and she smokes her cinnamon sticks. It's a favorite thing to do. And just take screenshots of your creepy little kid race from Final Fantasy 14. That's true. I could just make some Lalafell characters in there and just be like, ha! Rips off a strip of jacket sleeve and rolls it up. Yeah, probably. Yeah, she's exactly what she does. She's a lot of fun. I love her. Oops. So that's where Atet, Neferu, Beck, and Captain Illy come from, and the Reclaimer. That's where the ship was. Doing some digging there, they find that the city can be repowered, that the mythal is still intact. These mythals are part of a lot of the older elven cities would have these things that could do specific things for the city. Like in Silvery Moon, in the before times, it was used as a nobody could cast fire magic inside the city unless it was like the Lord's Alliance lady who had control over that. These mythals are not. They're like the artificially created kind.
Yeah, so these big fancy crystals that the elves had, Neferil liked them and
and wanted to make
like
something of their own.
synthetic versions.
Yeah, so they made these synthetic versions that were similar but different than the ones that the elves use. And yes, Braden, yes, that was exactly what happened when I started using the word mythal. M-Y, let me spell it out here. Wait, no, that's not it. I want to say it's like that. I want to say that still doesn't look right for whatever reason, but I know.
Imagined it as like the word myth plus al.
Oh, mythal.
I don't know.
Yes, I think
right.
that actually. I think that is right. Let me.
But it feels right.
Yep, that's how it is. Mythal D&D. A mythal was a powerful magical effect created by a group of spellcasters to protect and ward a large area with numerous powerful enchantments. So yeah, there's a couple of a mythalar is a Netherese device that allowed stuff to happen. So it was like, yes, so that's the way it is. Synthetic mythales. I hate everyone. Everyone must die. So yes, mythal. This mythal, god damn it, I'm just never gonna be able to say this without thinking of magic mythal. This mythal, this artifact required a processing unit, so to speak. It needed a soul to operate, because the Netherese were not above using terrible forms of magic in all of their creations. They had in their discovery, and this was part of the whole like Knights of the Living Order thing, in their messing around with magic, they had discovered ways to create portals to other dimensions, which is where the Warforged came from. They had they had basically crossed in with Eberron, and that's what allowed them to create airships of similar design. Gave them a lot more technology as far as like floating cities and that sort of thing, and also the discovery of Warforged. Now the thing was, Warforged were sentient and could determine for themselves what they wanted to do. For the Netherese, they wanted a way to control these powerful,
right,
beings or potential war machines that didn't need to sleep, didn't need to eat. They
give them some inhibitor chips, right?
Exactly. So they made several generations. And this also comes into play later on. They made their first generation was basically a replica, so they called that generation 1. And I want to say Rauku was an original. He was from Eberron and one of the Knights of the Living Order. Riku was a generation 1, and so was created by Netheril, but was basically sentient. Generation 2, less sentient, still, but was like followed orders. And then they made Generation 3, which was considered a blasphemy against Warforged, as they had no will of their own. They simply obeyed commands. They were basically no better than golems. Or golems. Golem is somebody else. Golems. These golems had all the same powers. Golems, these Warforged of Generation 3 had all the same powers and abilities that the Generation 1 did, but they had no autonomy. We'll get into that later. But these were the things that were discovered in Atet. Or the city of Tumulus, I should say. Atet was almost dead, so we used her to give her a better chance. Yeah, they were like wondering who was going to be the one to basically put themselves into the city to make it fly and to bring it back. Because the city was a wasteland. It was been sitting in the desert for ages. The city center was a crumbling... It had once been a school of magic, but hadn't been used in hundreds of years. I guess a side note is that this is where some of Kindred's memories started coming back, because he remembered going to this school and he remembered being here which was impossible because his memories were of had nothing to do with this. So he was like, wait, why am I seeing this alternate version of myself here? And he started having like these dreams, and that's when he first came to the realization that there was more to him than even he knew. Long story short, Atet offers herself as the main computer, as to put herself into the city, because she wasn't going to have much of a life if she survived getting to help. And she wanted to make amends for all the things that she had done. So she volunteered to be placed into this mythal and become the city itself. They raised the city. She now has the ability to be a hologram, a projection or an image of herself anywhere in the city. And she can now control the city, where it moves, where it goes. There were these clockwork entities that kind of looked like the servitors from Destiny. They were just like these orbs that were floating around the city center, and they were kind of broken at first. But now that Atet had control over them, they would start repairing the city like over time. Thank you. Have you been hydrating during this? I keep trying. Every now and then I will take a hydrate. Dehydrate. Hold on, let me find some jerky.
I know, it's a coffee or something.
It's true. We have been going for like 2 hours. I had so wanted this to be a quick and concise, bite-sized thing. I really, really did.
Well, you call it full course, so
it's true.
It's the whole story.
I'm trying to get through it.
Annotate it in the YouTube.
I'm trying to get through it as quick as I can. Drink your fluids. Drink your juice, Shelby. The city was raised. The party is like, all right, we have a base. We have something we can use. They discover that this, after clearing out some ghosts, y'all been chatty Cathy's. Yeah, we have been. Do you want to take a break? We can take a break if you're like, I'm fine. Okay. Well, I'm fine. Yeah, Beck and Kindred Cat. Yeah, they were. It was like a 12-hour cast of getting the city back up and running, like getting all of these things going.
Makes sense.
Not an easy task raising a city from its own slumber.
It costs like one person's humanity and a bunch of effort by other skilled casters.
LV, I went to I like a responsible adult went before I started streaming.
Same.
I knew what I was getting myself into, kind of. Atet spent 72 things doing 72 doing Windows updates. Probably accurate. The classic bendy straw taped all the way down the leg. Oh my god. Is that classic? Is that classic? 72 hours. Yeah, no joke. It was an interesting and exciting time because we were in the process of like, I was like, all right, I need to refocus where the this is going. They had some contact with Carp during like these past months. He had been in Waterdeep and had just left Waterdeep when the party went down there the first time. There was some rumors of the Harpers having had like talked to him, and they were here at the city. They had found that it had a teleportation circle already. During a dream sequence with Carp and the others, something happened, and Carp wound up getting in a shipwreck as they were approaching the Illure Islands.
Ah, yes.
So suddenly it was just like, oh my gosh, something terrible has happened. And they got in contact with...
I remember you said too that there was like all sorts of... We don't have to get into it, but there was like possibilities about which way they could end up going.
Yes.
And this course of events ended up occurring.
Yep. There was a whole bunch like they had found some more of the 12 angels that they were looking for. One of them knew how to teleport, so in a way, I don't remember how he did it, but they wound up getting the sigils to teleport to a Tet. Okay, cool. I'll talk really loud over the water. As they brought basically Lady Farlight and the rest of them were all teleported to a Tet as after it had been in the air. The problem being now Carp was in a cocoon of some sort. And he was still, I think he was like 9. So, because only maybe a few months had passed. That's the other thing. Like months and months and months pass for us. But in game time, like all of this happens in like consecutive, things. So Carp is back with them, but he's in this weird like light bubble cocoon of like self-preservation. And would remain in that state for like I want to say 9 months because now that I think about it, I think the choosing of 9 months, I don't know why I chose 9 months specifically, yeah. But he was in there for 9 months. I think that was because of Kindred's mailing spell. I think so too. I think he had used something like that to give them the paper that had the sigils to allow them to get there. In any case, he was in a coma for a while. This was a point where we were like, all right, they have a city. It's going to take time to establish itself and all the things going on. So we did a time jump of this like several months. In that several months time that took, I think we took like a week or 2 break to kind of talk about the things that we all wanted to do. A year? Was it a year? I don't remember. I've been bamboozled.
I seem to remember.
Was it a year?
Being said recently, yeah.
I think maybe it was a year. I thought it was only like a couple of months, but a year does make sense because I was like, all right, what do we want to take? What do we want to have happen in a year? Because it was only me, Kindred, Sonder who was left to play. Yeah, because Borkor was gone. Pigug had left as well. And his sister, Verity. So yeah, it was only you guys. Aliquin was gone too because he was in the in Ravnica at the time. How did he wind up getting there? Oh, yeah. His dad showed up and abducted him like right from like close to the beginning of the campaign. I had forgotten about that. I was like, wait, he was gone for a while. How did we play that out? That's right. So in that year time, a Tet kind of grew in itself a little bit. With the help of the attendants, Lady Farlight and her people, they kind of helped set up the city center a little more. Because he could grow trees, they could have something to trade with. They had the reclaimer to move, supplies to some of the other nearby towns, while keeping it on the DL. We also introduced Beryl Goldweaver in close to around that time because she had been on the run from Thay and had discovered a flying city. And so she helped repair the reclaimer and some of the other things.
Our artificer extraordinaire.
Also from Barrel's Baddies, yeah. So we had a lot going on, and that time was around the time whenever I guess it was close to a little bit after the pandemic hit, because that was around the time when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do next. So we started playing a lot of our games online, drinking her bubba tea. That's right. We started doing our things on Zoom, but we hadn't started streaming yet. And so we were trying to get a hang of like how we were working that. But we needed to fill the ranks. So I started talking to some of the friends that I know and some people that I had met. And lo and behold, we found ourselves two new players. We got Soul and Iskra to join in the party.
Oh yes.
Join in the good times. Alcuin was on the process of coming back, so we had Iskra's character play into the whole Knights side of things, the Knights of Silvermoon, a band of interdimensional Justice League style peacekeepers. Yeah. As she had kind of been given a tryout during a little brief one shot that we did. And,
Yes.
it all turned out really well. Long story short, she winds up with the brigade in a crazy turn of events as Alcuin's father had bestowed upon him a device that would allow them to teleport from one dimension to another.
Yeah, there, a happenstance explosion near a cafe as things happen, right? Just some
busking for Xenos, and then all next thing you know, there's an explosion.
and so I
Vampire.
followed the people inside.
Yeah,
who
followed the
decided
people.
to run in there because
Why not help the helpless? Yep. Wound up by the end of that fighting a vampire in a bell tower. Vampire in a bell tower. Did I say that right? Busking for Xenos. That's what I think it's Zino. Oh, Simia. Yeah, Galil was in there too. That's right. I forgot about that.
yeah, I played as Simia and Sandra played as Josiah.
Oh, Josiah. Yeah, she was one of the knights that we had been using. At the time, that's whenever we also started the Knights of Silvermoon one-shots, where we would, me and Minty would combine our forces to do a bunch of one-shots that were taking place in the same universe, but different places. So we had all of these other characters that are part of these Knights of Silvermoon, and are able to kind of go wherever they need to go. And so Iskra winds up coming to Faerun, to this material plane, spent some time on the run with Alcuin, trying to find her way around.
Yes, because we wound up here by mistake. Because Alcuin had been given an interdimensional artifact, like you said, basically, that his inventor and municipal architect father had created for him. And in the process of testing it out, this like teleportation necklace over longer and longer devices, or longer and longer distances.
Yep.
We end up, because of what Alcuin was thinking about specifically, getting like snapped to Faerun.
And here you are. We are almost to the part where YouTube picks up. Almost. Carp winds up coming out of his coma. It has been revealed that during that year-long time that he was in there, he aged inside of his little cocoon, and now looks to be in his late teens, early 20s perhaps. He's aged a lot in that time. He's also apparently had a deeper conversation with his celestial parents. Found out more about the fact that he was the child of the moon and the sun god, or the moon goddess and the sun god, making him a demigod, godling of an eclipse, basically, if you combine the two. And so he kind of is like, all right, I have work to do. I had a little more of a drive and a little more focus on his tasks. Knew he had to find the rest of those 12. Most of them had been found by this point. There was only a couple that were missing. The city was kind of put on the move. Rebellions were started. They started working with the Harpers to try and like organize efforts against the Empire. Um, reforged. He got reforged. Yep, basically. It was a time, and as the group now was like, all right, we have a mission. Kindred was given a brief message by his longtime friend, so she needed help in Silvery Moon, and that things were looking really bad. They also found a boy in the desert, Aelin, who was a one of the 12, but he had come from Silvery Moon, and he wanted to find help to help them free Silvery Moon. So this new party of Galil, Kindred, Sonder, Iskra, Sol, and Alcuin, and Aelin decide to get together on the Reclaimer and try and see what they can do to help those in Silvery Moon. And so that was when we started streaming for the first time, was that journey.
Yes.
Going from Atet, leaving from
We've now
Atet.
entered the recorded era.
Unfortunately, those first few were lost to time. So I think when you start on the YouTube trail, those videos are like halfway through the journey of the Reclaimer's maiden voyage up to Silvery Moon. The party's still kind of getting to know each other. Sol is very shy, but very huggable and lovable. Iskra is a fucking badass, as always. learning her ways of the water bending, and Sonder helping along the way. You guys had a little joust.
My butt along the way.
You guys did
Which
some
makes
training.
Sense, since he's an experienced monk. And
yeah.
I've been not doing monk things for several years.
And now you are learning all the monk things. You guys make it to Silvery Moon. A lot of stuff happens in Silvery Moon. We get another player, Renan, who turns out to be one of the Knights of Silvery Moon as well. Brought from another realm, another plane of existence.
Silvery Moon and Silver Moon distinction there.
There is two different things.
Silver Moon is in order.
Yeah. Yes. It's the silvery. Yeah. I was like, wait, right? Yes. Silvery Moon, an ancient. How did the name come about? Silver Moon, Knights of Silver Moon. The Knights of Silver Moon was our group of friends who we wanted to start a gaming clan. We were used to play PS4 games all together, and so we went through a couple of different names, and we decided to call ourselves Knights of Silver Moon, to be our like clan insignia. On Warframe, we played Warframe on PS4 all together, a lot. Trickshot Clan, and a couple. We played a couple other games, and so that was just our clan name, and then it became Dauntless. Yep. Faking no scope. I'm assuming you're talking Call of Duty is what that sounds like. So yeah, that's where the Knights of Silver Moon initially came up, and then we turned it into like that Justice League style group of do-gooders, etc. Oh, is that Fortnite? Oh, okay. Got it. So yeah, so Silvery Moon happened. We gained Renan as a player and as an ally. Silvery Moon was liberated. Kindred learned some darker secrets. Learned that the reference that he had kept hearing over his course of time of two souls was due to the fact that his father, Uranus, is one of the top Lich Lords in the Empire. So you basically have Big Daddy Death, Big Daddy Lich up at the top, Saz Tam, and he has 8 other Liches around him, one for each school of magic. And they govern all of the Empire and all of the Red Wizards. And his dad is one of them. And I don't know if you all know, but as a lich, you normally get a phylactery to be a lich, something to keep you alive for all eternity. And phylacteries can take all sorts of shapes and sizes. It can be anything. I mean, you know what? Voldemort had 6 of them, 8 of them, or whatever, something like that. He had his soul split into a bunch of other little things, and there was some of them were, a book, a mirror, Harry Potter. So, they were all needed to die or be broken in order for the soul to return to Voldemort and him to be mortal. Well, that's the way it is with these liches here. They can put their phylactery into anything. Uranus had split his soul into his twin sons, into his two boys, and then separated them. One of them wound up going to one of the cities in Netheril, and another one went off somewhere else. They were there. He had a vision of like 2 boats going in different directions. One took off into the sky, and one I'm gonna call Fair on CPS. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And that's where he found that out by in Silvery Moon. The ruler of the empire had placed there was one named Lady Amaranth. She was a very old dragonborn woman, a diviner. She had her strengths in divination magic. Her master, the lich above her, was the diviner for all of the empire. So she's like second, third from the top, basically. She's high up there. Easter egg that not quite that much of a spoiler, but her master was the one who foretold the prophecy of the boy. So she had a really close connection there, and never knew how close she was to like the source of what her master had foretold. But she had her own machinations and her own desires, and once she found out,
yeah, she's a schemer.
Once she found out that Kindred had part of the soul of one of the high lich lords, it was like, hey, she basically captured the party, or cornered them, I should say, them, and then was like, I will have you as guests in my my abode, but I want that soul that you have inside of Kindred. She's like, I'll take it out. She's like, I'll remove it. I know how. Just let me have that, and you and your friends can leave the city, and nothing, I will not kill you.
Which you can see how this would potentially be something that would be enticing.
Yeah.
Because
total win-win. She seems legit. Total win-win.
Soul out of Kindred, probably useful for our purposes if we're ever going to defeat they. That way, you
don't have to kill Kindred.
Don't have to kill Kindred.
Yeah, I was really hoping for it to be a long haul, whereas like at the very end, he's like, "There's no other way," and I was hoping for that drama, but it's fine. This worked out really good, instead. So she attempts to remove the phylactery from him, thinking that it's this physical, magical object that she sensed inside his body. Mind you, during that year's time of things going on, Lady Farlight, I think it was during that year's time, or it was a little bit before that. Lady Farlight says, someone has been watching you, to Kindred. And it is realized that there was a spell that was placed within him somewhere that was like a tracking beacon.
Which, no wonder he was just allowed to leave when he was reincarnated.
He was just allowed to leave because he was a tracking beacon, so Valindra could keep track of where he went, but also what was going on. So she would ask him in his sleep on occasion, where are you at? What is going on? And so he would reply in, I want to say it was Thayan, but he was talking in Goblin sometimes. So it was just like, he would kind of switch languages. And she was kind of keeping tabs on things until Lady Farlight fixed that problem. Cut to Amaranth, who is now doing like playing operation on Kindred's body, just like slices him open and takes out this like little spell scroll.
No sleep spell or anesthetic or anything, by the way.
Nope, just straight up slice. And did she ever say how she'd removed it? Because it could still be involved. It still could have involved killing Kindred. Just go full Kalima. Yeah, exactly.
So towards the end of our time there at the spell college that she'd taken up residence in, it's basically she just was like, all right, time to do this, and say goodbye to your friends because you're probably not coming back. Hope maybe you will, but it's not my concern.
Yeah, she's like, I'm just here for the soul. That's it. Your friends will go free. I never specified that you would be going with them. I just said your friends would go free. No harm would come to them. And so she took this spell scroll out, but it wasn't a spell scroll. It was like a scroll canister that would hold one in it.
Cylinder.
That cylinder had contained the spell scroll that was like the tracking device. So that was what Valindra had been using. And that's the thing that she had thought, the magical substance that she had thought was in it. Turns out that is also what is placed in most of the reincarnated by Imperial hands, is they all have this little thing to kind of keep track of them and keep them under control. Amaranth, needless to say, was not pleased. And the party goes into a full assault in the spell school against the Empire there, which, incidentally, we had a fight with a great white dragon and his rider, one Gabrian Frostborn, and
one of the sons and daughters of Tiamat.
Yeah, one of the sons of Tiamat.
A title, not a actual blood relation.
Yeah, not related by. Winoth. I was trying to remember the name of the dragon. Winoth, the white dragon. Winoth the hunter. He was there to bring Lady Amaranth some devices that he had found in the desert. Some old caskets, it would seem like, that also come into play later on.
The cult needed some help with them.
Yeah. So the cult of the dragon is there. And
he brought them on board the Fang, his massive
airship,
super cool airship.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh? The rebellion goes off within Silvery Moon. We had some help from our friends Martel and Sybil, as well as some other local resistance groups. So we had Knights of the Living Order, we had the Wizards of Evermore, and they kind of combined together with Aelin and some of the other players that we had help us out.
Right. So while we were guests / prisoners in Amaranth's library, Aelin was not with us.
Yep.
So he went and started
rounded up everybody else, got in the Reclaimer and helped use that as it's one of the airships, or the airship that was involved with the rebellion in taking back Silvery Moon. So it was like,
yeah, we had like paratroopers basically that dropped in on Thayan bases.
Yep.
In the city.
It was a wild time.
It was cool.
The whole Silvery Moon arc was bananas. A lot of bananas. Amaranth is defeated. Gabriel and his dragon are defeated. The Thayans are pushed out from one of the first cities taken during the initial invasion over a year ago. Yeah, it's the first major victory for the rebellion, and the party is now like, oh my god, look what we can do. This is pretty amazing. Gathered their allies. The Reclaimers suffered some damage, so everybody basically jumped in the teleportation circle and went back to Atet. Gathered together, regrouped, found out that the Empire is all their liches hold their phylacteries in one place, called the Graveyard, and it is proposed by Afriel, Carp's now god name.
His ascended.
His ascended name, yeah. It is now proposed that the party go and search for this graveyard in the hopes that with its destruction can bring a swifter end to the Empire, since these liches will be vulnerable and hopefully die. So at that point is basically the closest that we're at now. The party set off from Atet.
Oh, we also, though, there's the little bit with the sisterhood and
So
Aliquin's coma.
So just before setting off, it's amazing what happens to the story whenever scheduling becomes an issue. We had to deal with some scheduling things, but we'll just pretend that it was all part of the plan. And we have the introduction of the Sisterhood of Deimos, a group that had escorted one of the chosen 12 to, and a fact that it got completely glazed over with the intensity of the moment. To answer your question, yes. Atet is both a person and a place. Once Atet became part of the mythal, they renamed the city Atet because Atet is the woman who controls it. Basically.
Yeah, she's the embodiment of the city now, and it's. Yeah.
So if you remember Cortana from Halo, imagine that kind of scenario, but for a whole city instead of a ship. She is just she can appear anywhere and now knows how to appear in multiple places at once. It's amazing what you can do when you have all of magic at your disposal.
And where the flying city goes, and some of the more intricate happenings with making it work. That's her job.
That's all her now.
She's a multi-core processor.
Literally. Aliquin had a really weird relationship with his patron as a warlock. Wasn't exactly clear on who his patron was for the longest time. He kind of assumed it was a couple of different things. The Sisterhood of Atet are basically a group of warlocks.
Sisterhood of Deimos.
Oh yeah, sorry. We're working on forming the Sisterhood of Atet. That's right. Coming 2022. The Sisterhood of Deimos are a group of warlock tieflings that all worship one deity. They call him Deimos, but he goes by a name of Demogorgon, a demon prince of the abyss. Mind you, Demogorgon has two heads, so they worship one aspect of him, and there is another group called the Brotherhood of Zul that worship the other half. Deimos is kind of more of I wouldn't say that they're necessarily good, but they are not evil.
Right,
they just
Demogorgon's the whole shtick is madness.
Yeah.
So
he is complicated. Always hungering for power and wanting to make himself more powerful and expand his influence. How do you feel about Demogorgon? We're of two minds about it. Yeah, basically.
Precisely.
The Sisterhood of Demos were super badass. He's got layers. He's like an onion. The Sisterhood was our bad. They're like not to toot my own horn.
Cool. I love
not
them.
to toot my own horn, but they are probably my favorite thing that I have made up in this campaign.
I agree.
You're newer to Sedina, but super into it and super good. What sparked deciding to try it out? That's pretty easy. I had been told before that I would enjoy it because I love writing and the creative aspect to creating anything, but I never got into it. Our group, Knights of Silver Moon, that used to play Warframe and all the other games, we also would occasionally hang out together and play Taboo or Apples to Apples, or that was like one time. Then after that we discovered Cards Against Humanity, and that became our thing. But tabletop other games. And we were like, hey, have you ever tried D&D? We all wanted to play like a MMO, but none of us really wanted to jump into one. And we were like, let's try D&D. And so we tried it. And here
D&D
we are.
Won't be as addicting as an MMO, so
not at
as
all.
much of a time sink.
3 years later, here we are. So this Sister Demos, they are all tieflings. They don't show their faces, so they wear veils. You can kind of see their eyes through their veils. Have you ever tried meth? Yeah, right. You can see their horns with their veils, and they have this whole monk aesthetic vibe to them, but they're super badass.
Nice Icelandic accents, which are
my
really
best, my favorite part though was the voices. So I finally discovered how to use voice mods, and so I was able to. Oh God, is this gonna work? I think this is gonna work. Let me see.
I was able to change my voice to talk like they do and use a different pitch and speech way of speaking.
Yeah, and he did it so there were multiple sisters with distinct voices that were kind of along the same track.
So I had at least three that would speak at any one given time.
So I had this one, but also her sister, in which her voice was lighter, and yet another that was more somber, and this one that was deeper and more forceful.
So I was able to have three people speaking as one, and they would finish each other's sentences. So all I had to do was jump voice tracks and say one whole sentence, but it was all three were talking in sync. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Love them.
Cool. So they show up to bring one of these 12,
which we completely
You described her and showed us a picture of her. And she's really pretty.
Yeah, she was really cool. But the story, story-wise, we just focused on Alvin went into a
there.
She's still there. Yeah, she's still around.
City as part of Afril's council now, but
I think you were right. I think some of those voices I have set to where it comes between. It uses both. Because you can stereo the voice, so that's why it sounds like it kind of sounds like it's coming from different sides. It wasn't on purpose. It just I forgot to do that with one and did it to another one, so it worked out. Happy accidents. But yeah, Alcuin went into a coma. They helped get him
of an artifact that he was given by one of the members of the Brotherhood of
Zul back in Silver Moon. Oh my God, so many layers to this story.
Holding and studying that thing was slowly increasing his madness until finally it broke and he fell into a madness-induced Demogorgon coma.
Yep.
That was going to overwhelm him. Luckily, the Sisterhood was there. And so there was a chance to potentially save him.
I don't know if we ever got into it, but Ambrosia, one of the sisters, I had written in that she, if it had come up, was going to say that she had been told, aside
The
from
orange one.
aside from doing this good deed for this girl that needed to be taken to a tet, that doing so would be a benefit for the sisterhood, but she didn't know how. So they were like, all right, we're doing this pilgrimage, let's go to a tet. So they wind up meeting Afriel. He's kind of interesting because he's this like new god on the scene. So
Right. So like, okay,
this is
maybe some way we can work this to our advantage.
But then they meet Aliquid, or see Aliquid, and realize that he has been touched by. He is serving Demogorgon, but not from a one side or the other aspect. He is like right down the center.
Right.
So,
like, ooh.
so now they're like, this is who we were supposed to meet. Not madness, just abyssal tryptophan. Exactly. The whole scenario happens with that, in that Iskra and Aliquin have been friends. They come from the same place, so to speak. So it's like he is her tie to her home, basically. And so, there's definitely an aspect of like, I want to make sure he's okay, but he's also the only person that she's known the longest in this plane. So imagine being transported to another dimension, planet, and you only know one person, and now that's one person really is in a coma, and you're just like,
Right. Yeah. There's
It's kind
a
of
good
like
chance
that.
he will be dead. So
there was a lot of fuck. Now what? Long story short, Aliquin comes out of the coma, but not without a little bit of a twist in there. Part of the ritual that was used to help pull him out involved Iskra having to help him mentally, and it kind of left a twisted version of herself in his mind, and that kind of grew and festered and has been a fun little nega Iskra thing
that
to
is
play.
enjoyable. Yes.
Where he would like hear voices in his head, and it was like Iskra would. I just told her, I was like, anytime you want, if you feel like you got an opportunity, go for it. Just give him the little. Aliquin leaves Iskra. He was my ride. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, he introduced us to the Demos. Party went on their way. Anyway. Party went on their way.
We still have to deal with the phylacteries via Afriel's plan.
And that's, aside from a bunch of other little things that kind of happened along the way recently, you guys got pretty close into Thay. Galil got lost after a eldritch accident of sorts. Wound up sinking the ship.
Into Thay to go look for the place where most of these phylacteries are housed. And ship ends up getting sunk. Again, some more influence
from the beyond.
Aliquin's plot line.
Yep.
And that's what causes Galil to get sucked into the abyss.
Yep. He gets taken to the abyss. Nobody knows where he is, except for me. And
right, we all think he's dead.
Yeah, everyone.
The players.
Yeah, everyone's just imagining he was gone because you had like a kraken that came and devoured the ship you were in. So it's fair. You guys get to this peninsula that's just outside of Thay. Discover there is a group of police militia there that has been hunting and helping the Empire. Has been helping the Empire hunt magic users, which has been a thing now that you see has been going on since the beginning. Like this has been a tie that has been gone since the beginning of the campaign. Is like The Empire is taking all of these people, but
Because
nobody knows.
while it's a magocracy though too, right?
Yeah,
Is really strict about how magic is taught and who wields it.
definitely a slave system there.
So there's that aspect of it, and all these disappearances that are going on anyway.
Right.
So
So it's just like, where are these people disappearing to? Because there's so many that have been taken. You know, where are they going? And so that kind of just got answered a little more recently, in that the Druids of the Sand, the people that we saw back in Neverwinter, have been kind of mentioned now and then throughout the course of the story, are being used by the Thayans to kill and reincarnate people to feed this army of theirs. So they reincarnate them as hobgoblins to continue pushing out this army. The little bits and that Kindred had in him is the same thing that gets put into every hobgoblin to keep them not remembering their past. Because one of the key things that the Thayans will do, or Red Wizards will do, is when you sign up or become a Red Wizard, whether you want to or not, they clear your memories of your past. All you remember is from starting your schooling as a Red Wizard and beyond. Once you achieve a certain point, maybe you are given your memories back so you can remember things, but for the most part, that's all they know is being a Red Wizard. And that goes for their army as well. That just came to light that the Druids of Sand were doing that.
In the most recent city that we were in.
We had that. We had the Watch. They were the ones who were hunting these magic users to give to the Empire. And and now you see that the Empire is doing all sorts of things with them. That's where they get all of their armies from.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that they decide to do with them. They either, send them to be part of the Hobgoblin army, or they ship them off to live a life of servitude, or if they've got particularly interesting magical abilities, they're going to take them and, brainwash them and train them up to be new Red Wizards.
And if it doesn't work, they try and dispose of the bodies. And we have seen what happened with that with North.
Mm-hmm.
When things don't go completely right, they are a bunch of Red Wizards who do necromancy. They're like, all right, dead bodies, cool. we got more playthings. If only there was a warlock in the party with a healthier relationship with their patron. If only. Too bad we don't have one of those. So currently we've had the Barrels Baddies, which delved into the Generation 3, the side quests, the Generation 3 Warforged that are now in the Tet, or some of them, because they found that there's like a whole bunch of them that the Empire might
like the terracotta warriors.
Yep.
Imagine like that. There was a Neferal warehouse
that had a whole bunch of them. So there was that aspect.
So we had to deal with that, or somebody, not this party, because we got other things to do.
Everyone's got something to do.
Had to deal with that to prevent Thay from obtaining them.
That would have been bad. Then we had the Rescuers into the Abyss, where we sent Martel, Gruff, Pigug, Sybil, those 4, into the Abyss to retrieve Galil, as he was found to be in the depths of the Abyss itself, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with D&D lore, the Abyss and the 9 hells, are both bad places that you go if you are a very, very bad person. The difference is the hells are more lawful evil, and the Abyss is chaotic evil. So devils and such inhabit the hells, and they're very big on hierarchy and rules and contracts. Like contracts and contracts. They are real big on them
Rules and
contracts.
contracts.
Rules and contracts. That's what they're here for. The Abyss is kind of like survival of the fittest. There's a couple of really bad peeps in there, but everything there is like evil Wonderland. It's just
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, really amped up Alice in Wonderland.
it is so
Like,
it is so
viciousness.
wild and crazy, and aberrations generally are what reside within the but yeah, those are the two, demons and devils. They're always at fighting each other. I always consider them the same thing, but apparently they're different things. So we had the Abyss, Into the Abyss, one shot or mini series, not one shot, but mini series that helped get Galil out. And now we have another mini series that we're pursuing, the Fae Hunt. And this storyline is actually doesn't touch on too much with the current, like, it's still part of the same universe,
Too much.
and it's there, but how it ties into our universe or what's going on directly hasn't been
Remains to
be seen. Wow, it's like Dreamy was watching. How did you know? Did somebody say Faye? So, this coming week, so we're doing this once every other week. We'll have a streamed episode, a streamed episode of the Fae Hunt. And then we continue that adventure like as much as we can throughout the week on text-based adventures in the Fae Hunt channel on our Discord. But Dreamy is in there. She plays the lovely Leary. If ever there was a social media influencer in the Feywild, Leary's your girl. Social. There you go. So there in the Discord, if you guys haven't already joined the Discord, we do have our text channels where we continue a little bit with the Barrels Baddies, the Into the Abyss, the Rescuers, and the Fae Hunt all have text thread adventures that are continuing because there's not enough time in the week to stream all of these. As much as I would love to be able to stream all of these continually, we can't. But
like you said, this time slot here on Thursday, it's if we're not Lord Dumplinging
yeah,
the other weeks,
will be
those are Fae Hunt.
Those will be Fae Hunt. Like the scheduling, we might have to change up depending on availability of myself with work. But
Very
for
true.
as much as I can, Thursdays or Wednesday evenings should be our Fae Hunt or Lord Dumplings. Whatever we wind up doing. But Dreamy's in there. Our lovely Elvie's in there. Sonder plays a character in there as well. I get to play a character in there as well. And then we
It's a
have
unique co-DMing venture.
yeah, he's helping me with the plot and a lot of some of the details in this because he's got a really beautiful creative mind when it comes to magical things, and so I needed help with that, and he has provided so much insight, and it's been so much fun. This coming episode, I'm excited to say we will actually get to see our Nana character. Her computer is fixed, she said.
Yay!
So we'll be getting Mara in as video for once. And she's like, now that I have my computer fixed, she was saying she has all of these art ideas that she wants to throw in there because she's an amazing artist. I think if you look up Heko Gecko, I want to say it's Heko Gecko on Instagram, you can see some of her work on there. I probably should have looked that up beforehand, but she does some amazing Animal Crossing art.
Animal Crossing.
Oh my god.
comics.
Animal Crossing comics, yes.
No, so yes, she does Animal
Yes,
Comics.
Heko Gecko Doodle.
Specifically, like reptilian.
Heko Gecko doodle. If you look that up
They're
on,
quite funny.
if you look
cute.
that, very cute. If you look that up on Instagram or I think on Facebook too, she's got some of the other art she's done for some of the one shots and other series she's played in. Amazing. I love her style. It's a lot of fun. So check her out. I mean, aside from a lot of rather ridiculous random details, pretty much catches everybody up on the basics of the storyline so far.
Yeah, that's like,
there's
you
so
know,
much-
the whole
there's so much.
Agaron bit and like pretending to be a band, and there's a lot. Um,
There's a
and
lot.
that's just the part that I've experienced, right?
We have so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that gives you 3 years. We'll do that. That's true, and technically only like a year worth of streaming, a year plus a couple months, because we started streaming in. I want to say you guys joined us in.
It was like kind
July.
of the early part of the pandemic still, I think, right?
Right, so it was like the start of the summer.
Yeah.
It's probably like June
I think
ish.
that's probably right.
Because I mean, that's about whenever I had met like LV and Ranger and a bunch of the others that we have in Discord. I met them all around the same time, which was during the heat of the pandemic. So
Right, because I
April.
got back from Germany and then visited San Antonio. So
yeah, so it had to have been around that time somewhere. So yeah, we'll say we've been doing a year's worth of streaming online. So a lot of those videos you can find after that point, because we didn't realize that they would not stay forever on on Twitch. So if you go to our YouTube, you can see where we started to be like, oh shit, we gotta post these somewhere else for us to stay. So we have the episodes after that are on YouTube. That's just before the Silvery Moon arc. So it's just at the start of all that chaos that we talked about with Silvery Moon and Amaranth and all that fun stuff. You want to see that?
that's a pretty exciting place to get into.
It is.
So-
It is pretty crazy. The watching Renan fall from the sky, where we actually started with our intro.
so good, so good. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and thank you for LV, Graham, all of you who have started with us for a while and been hanging out with us for a while. Welcome everybody who is new. I cannot promise that this will be a controlled campaign. Yeah, nope, that hasn't happened yet. So, just hope you enjoy the chaos and the wild ride that this has definitely been. I cannot imagine myself with a better group of adventurers. Well, maybe some. Just kidding. But Graham is I'm so glad that I get to play with you. It's been fun having you on board. You did like the most amazing job this week with the
Yes. With the whole
with the recap. Yeah, that was
recap and just dealing with the fallout with Ardrin reckoning with Vian being gone, and like, yeah, so, it was beautiful
so much
and fun to interact with.
Yes, he is a character. Interestingly enough, I didn't make the connection that Callistia and Graham are both Southern, of the Southern persuasion, but I'm sure that means something, right? Oh, there's gonna be a reckoning, that's for sure. Yeah, I imagine. I hope so. But with that, I think that covers this full course meal.
Yeah, 3
For
years,
now.
3 hours.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Perfect, right? An hour
yeah,
per year.
totally planned it out like that on purpose. I'm sure we'll focus more on certain aspects and in future Lord Dumplings episodes, but I wanted something that people would be able to watch and be able to catch up with the general knowledge of what we have gone through over the last 3 years and the amount of insanity that we have dealt with.
Our video is incidentally now, this is the same length as the complete history of Destiny video. You recently viewed. My
Oh my god,
recommendation.
you were right. Oh my god. So 3 hours is just how you catch up to stories. It's canon. Oh my god. Well, you know, it's been I just realized I did a thing. I was clicking on it to see something else, and I was like, "Oh wait, that changes it for real." Yeah, I had made an intermission thing. Here, let me show you our intermission thing because I was really, it's been it's been ghosted. I made this specifically for our intermissions. I put the music to it, and I meant to do it earlier, and I forgot. But I was like, I kind of like the idea of all of these things. This is for future Lord Dumplings episodes. But now, like, look at you over there.
I enjoy it. Yes, that is so good.
I'm just gonna put different text traveling at different speeds, you know, just to give people something to look at, I guess. Oh my god. Well, gang, it's been fun. I realize now that I did not create a end credits scene, so we'll just have to say goodbye. Let's go ahead and I guess we can see if there's anybody who's still streaming and we can go to raid.
And make them our end credits.
We'll make them our end. Oh no, Hops and Dragons is still going. Oh Lord have mercy.
Man, oh man.
DM Shanks has been over there for a few hours, and I'm sure that
It was on before we were.
Before we were, yeah, and I'm sure they are well into being as inebriated as possible on that thing. Raid. See, listen, trash. You just like this whole raiding lifestyle. I think this is just something. I think this is a thing with you. This is fine. That is not a
Barbarians, pirates.
yeah, I was gonna say that's not facts. Facts. All right, let's go over and see how these fools are doing because I love them and hopefully DM Shanks was actually we were talking about doing some you know D&D stuff in the future, so it'd be fun to see what we can accomplish with our friends over there in the realm of top-down tabletop. I love them. They are a fun group of people. Let me make sure that I'm not gonna be all right, here we go. Ready? Let's do this. Good night, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. All right.
Side of things, like no one's having weird expectations. Oh, our good friends.
I love
from
that
Knights
he's
of
got the
Silver Moon just
classic
raided.
Warcraft too.
You're such a great host. Thank you so much, Shanks. Thank you, Knights of Silver Moon, for the raid.
I know you're behind on chat, so I thought I'd let you know.
I'm not Reyna. Get fucking lost. Thank you, Knights of Silver Moon, for the raid. Thank you for trusting us with your viewers. How was your stream? And you're joining us in the after hours portion of the Hops and Dragons.
Oh no.
So thank you so much.
We were just talking about Guy Love.
Yeah,
Oh.
and Infamous Bob says I couldn't imagine not having my dude groups where we truly love each other, give each other shit, flirt, and tell each other that we love each other. My biggest group is a bunch of veterans and cops, and nothing unmanly about it. Real masculine energy and dude love. And you know what? I think
Aw.
I will highlight that every single fucking day. I think that's I think the